Steve, we know this is a physical game, but this is also a chess match that happens between coordinators and quarterbacks. And this is Patrick Mahomes against, I've been around this matchup enough, probably the coordinator he hates the most in Vic Fangio. And I'm not exaggerating in that stretch at all. He has gone against Vic Fangio a ton when they were in the same division, when Fangio was the head coach in Denver. And now you look what Vic Fangio is doing with this defense in Philadelphia. There's a reason why he's up for Assistant Coach of the Year and what he's been able to do with this group. And I'm just going to run through this when we get into it. Total defense first, scoring defense second, rushing defense 10th, passing defense first, third down third, sacks 13th, turnovers 6th, red zone tie for 5th, yards per play first. This is one of the best defenses in all of football. And
it is.
I think you know about Vic. And so what would be, for everybody at home, from an offensive mind and a receiver standpoint too, why is this defense that he has created and has been copied around the league a lot so tough to go against?
A lot of what Vic does, other people do it as well. But the difference is the type of players that Vic Fangio has. He has pretty much 11 players who understand their role and they do it well. He has corners that can cover, man-to-man and zone coverage. He has linebackers who can cover, but who also have the ability to blow up the run game as well. Then he has a defensive line who can penetrate and also run stunts, who also know and are selfless to give up their body for another guy to get active as well. And the difference with Vic in years prior is he doesn't have one end and then a no-name guy. He has a number of guys. When you go back to the Chicago Bears, when he had that team with Nagy was the play caller / head coach, you remember they had Mac. But then across the way, they had some other guys who showed up here and there. They don't have that problem in Philadelphia. They got Sweat.
Nolan Smith's been playing his tail off over the last month.
Nolan Smith has been playing his patootie off. They have so many guys who can disrupt the timing of the offense. And when you look at the Kansas City Chiefs and their offensive line now going against the Philadelphia Eagles, problems, it can be a big problem because this is why. The best way to neutralize a talented defense is explosive plays. But that also means that your offensive line has to hold up. And the Philadelphia Eagles can rush 4.
There it is.
They don't have to rush 5 and create a little bit of confusion like Spags has to do with the Kansas City Chiefs. And with the Kansas City Chiefs playing the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills, y'all, Bills Mafia, don't get mad at saying this, and y'all don't get mad at me saying this. The Buffalo Bills' whole game plan was they do damage between the hashes. When I was told I was an idiot when I did the pregame, is they're dangerous between the hashes.
No, that's spot on.
They're not going to
hurt you outside the numbers.
They're not threatening. I don't care what draft pick you think you used and you think you got. You ain't got it. That's why you're sitting at home with like Agent 89 talking about the game. Your damage was in between the hashes with Kincaid, with Notch, with Shakir, with James Cook. On the outside, you had Coop, who I love. He was not impacting the game in which you thought. You had Coleman, who was not impacting the game. And because of the condensed formation you ran, Spags used your own game plan against you, where that allowed him to run stunts and free up free rushers because of the condensed formation that allowed him to blitz nickel and dime and secondary guys to get it open. So back on Vic doesn't have to do that. He lines up, puts everybody in the box, drops him out, and still gets penetration with 4 because Carter is a menace.
Unbelievable.
He knows how to do stuff, and he's taught by Fletcher Cox, taught by all these other guys to learn how to look at tips.
Javon Hargrave is there helping him out.
Jalen Hargrave's tips on how, if he's light on his feet, he's going to be a puller. He's going to be tipping his hand if he's double teaming, going up to the second level. So he's utilizing all those things. Vic Fangio has the best situation because he has guys who could play man coverage, but he also has guys who can play zone coverage. The problem, though, is do you want to play man coverage against the Philadelphia Eagles with A.J. Brown? McDuffie has to have another unbelievable game to go against. And does he follow A.J. Brown? No, because if he follows, who's going to cover Smitty? So you got to have guys that are going to play their sides. But Vic Fangio, in my humble opinion, is in the best situation because his players are dual threat. They could cover, stop the run, play zone, drop out in coverage, where I don't think that the Kansas City Chiefs have from top to bottom the same amount of players with the same capabilities. They have a few players, but not all 11.
I agree. And there's a few points I want to make here. Andy Reid believes Vic Fangio is one of, if not the best defensive mind. He probably wouldn't say the, he'd probably say it's his own defensive coordinator, but one of the best defensive minds in the game. I remember a couple of years ago, Patrick Mahomes telling me he's never shown me the same defense twice.
Wow.
And that's interesting because Vic, he goes out and plays. They go out and play. It's not really all over the place, but when he plays Mahomes, he kind of makes everything look a little different.
Do you know why?
Because Pat's that good?
That's the other point is, if you don't show a guy the same defense more than twice, then that means he can't anticipate where things are going to go, which means he has to slow down and think, not react. That's where, with the snap of the ball, you go up to the line, you're looking at stuff, you send emotion. Emotion confirms where I'm going. With Vic and with that creativity, he sometimes makes Patrick Mahomes discover where he needs to go with the ball, which means he's a step or a tick, or if you like to bake, a dab, a pinch of this and that.
And the reason why you're saying it this way, and the way you're getting excited about it, and the way Mahomes talks about it, is because these are the facts. And just think about this. When he was with Denver, and he never beat Patrick Mahomes, but during that stretch, compared to the field, Patrick Mahomes had fewer yards per attempt, lower completion percentage, lower passer rating against Fangio's defense than the field. And which is why, if you remember a few years ago, Steve, leading into the previous Super Bowl with these two teams, you know what Vic Fangio got the pen and paper out and did? Do you remember him signing a 2-year contract with Nick Sirianni and the Philadelphia Eagles to help them prepare for the Chiefs? He did that as like a consultant when these two teams first faced each other in the Super Bowl. The Eagles know what Vic Fangio knows about Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and they wanted to utilize it then. Now he's their full-time defensive coordinator preparing for Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And I think what you said about the horses that he has, the players that he has, the guys that can go out and make plays for him, and I was always told this by guys that have played for Vic, and I always said, why do some guys, because this is true, some guys hate playing for Vic, and some guys absolutely love playing for Vic. And you know what the common answer always was? If you
hold on before you answer. Before you
want to guess?
Let me throw. I want to guess.
Okay, guess. This episode of 89 is sponsored by Roe. Guys, we know that Valentine's Day, less than a month away. Get moving. But it shouldn't be the only time that you're focused on romance. Yes, life gets in the way from time to time, but you could also use a little boost in the bedroom from time to time. And Rose Sparks provides that boost for you to where you can last longer and you and your partner can have fun longer. Now, Rose Sparks connects you with medical providers 100% online, so there's no awkward face-to-face interaction. If you are approved, well, bang, it shows up directly at your doorstep. If prescribed, new sexual health patients will get $15 off Sparks on a recurring plan. So connect with a provider on ro.co/89 to find out if prescription Rose Sparks is for you. Be ready for play with Rose Sparks.
I want to guess.
Okay, guess.
One is, especially for veterans, you got to be disciplined. You got to stay in your gaps, or you have to be in the area that you're designed to and not chase patterns. You have to keep the integrity of the structure of my defense.
That is number one. That is number one.
Boy, hey, I'm telling you, I do this for a living, baby.
That a boy. It's exactly right. And the one that coincides with that is this. If you show Vic you can do something, if you're a middle linebacker that can blitz and you show him you can, he will have you do it. But if you think you can and you've shown him you can't, he will tell you straight to your face, you can't do it. And I'm not going to have you do it. And that's hard for some players to understand, especially these
type of players today.
Right?
Oh, he's hating.
And do you think Vic cares at all about telling a guy to his face, no, you cannot do that?
Zero flux.
But everybody, 100%. But every guy that has been successful in this goes, but if you buy in, the collective group is successful. You just have to have that buy-in. Like, there have been D tackles in the past that are going, I ain't got no numbers, and I'm not going to get paid. Well, it's like, Vic is having you do what you do well, and he doesn't care if you're getting paid on the next deal or not. And that's frustrating for some guys.
It is frustrating, and it is frustrating when you're not winning. When you are winning, you can do it. And I think that was the biggest difference and why the narrative and why it didn't work out and the ability to part ways. In Miami, because if you look at Miami, you look at the type of players that they have are a little bit hybrid. They do different things. They throw a lot of different looks at you. It can really become problematic because you show your deficiencies within your system about yourself, and that's not what you're supposed to do.
Yep.
And so you start to self-expose yourself.
That's exactly right. And what do these guys all do? They do their job very, very well. And what they're able to do, and you mentioned this earlier, and I kind of wanted to elaborate on it and why it's important in this Super Bowl matchup, is they only need to rush 4. They don't need to load the box against the run either.
A lot of teams can't do that.
No, because if you look at what they've done, like you have very underrated guy on this defensive line, Milton Williams. And then you have him next. He's a very underrated player on this defense. You have him and Jalen Carter. And I've talked to guys in Philly. Man, has he gotten himself in great shape this season. Dude doesn't leave the field anymore. And he doesn't have to because he's in great shape and he's rushing and disrupting games. And so when you don't have to load the box against the Chiefs, against the run, which the Chiefs are 22nd in the NFL in rushing. Like if you remember a year ago, Isaiah Pacheco was like the identity of this offense, right, Steve? They were a physical run team. And Kareem Hunt's kind of taken that job of late, and they're not going to need to load the box.
Here's the interesting part when you talk about Pacheco, and I've never said this publicly. I've just mumbled under my breath. Pacheco's a hell of a runner. But goodness gracious, man, he misses a hole left and right sometimes running towards contact. I would love to see, he loves contact, but I would love to see him hit the hole and run away from contact because the way he runs towards contact has really made him unavailable of late. And him not being available, I can tell you this. When seeing Pacheco on the sideline before the game, I thought he was in great shape, meaning he slimmed down a little bit. And here's the problem with slimming down when you're a contact runner. You don't have enough cushion to absorb a lot of that pounding by 325, 350. Listen to this. When you look at the Baltimore Ravens, Michael Pierce on paper is 350. Mm-hmm. Let me put my readers down. That boy ain't 350. That boy, he bumped on him. When you look at Jalen Carter, he ain't a little boy.
No.
That's a grown man. Mm-hmm. When you look at Newton for the Commanders, Cam Hayward, right? When you look at some of these players, nose tackles, they're pretty stout and a lot of body weight. If you're thinning up, slimming down, your body's not gonna, especially the way the Kansas City Chiefs play. Think about this, the Kansas City Chiefs play late in the January every year of Pacheco's young career. And what has happened at some point, you gotta remember, he played in the Super Bowl with an injury.
Yeah.
Last year. Mm-hmm. This year, he got hurt. None of it is his fault, but I'm just telling you. So this is a guy, he may be a 2-time Super Bowl champ, but is this a kid that you can give a second contract to and believe that he could be the back of your future when the thing he does well is actually the thing that's going to hurt you with his availability.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They've had that conversation with him in Kansas City. I know that for a fact, Steve. Like, hey, you don't have to seek contact the way you seek contact. We love it. We love the energy you bring to our offense.
Every time.
But you see contact every time. So the reason I bring this up is because I've had this conversation with Vic Fangio in the past about playing Mahomes. If he has the ability just to keep that 4 there, what can he do with the rest of his defense, Steve? Drop and make sure he can take care of everything else, whether it's the intermediate passing game, because he always told me the underrated aspects of Patrick are his short passing game ability, his intermediate pass game ability. People love the bombs that he threw early in his career and the deep ball and the unbelievable arm. He's like, the short and intermediate stuff is so good. And so the other part, I went back and looked at my notes. This was a conversation from like 4 years ago. And he was like, if you take one thing away, he's so versatile in all aspects of playing the position, he'll just adjust and then try to hurt you another way. So what you have to do is you have to go win your one-on-ones in key moments. It's going to be Slay, or it's going to be Cooper DeJean, or it's going to be Quinyon Mitchell, or one of these linebackers against Travis Kelce. Do they win? And do they have the opportunity, Steve? I think they do when you don't have to bring extra pressure.
Yeah.
The other part that I'm interested about, and it's so early in this. Joe Thuney, one of the best guards in football, and in my opinion, might be a Hall of Famer. He's been to 6 Super Bowls. He's been on 4-time All-Pro. And he slid out and saved the season to play left tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. So what you did is you took an outstanding guard and you've put him out at left tackle. And now you have Jalen Carter in the middle of a defense. I think Trey Smith's outstanding. He's, after the season, is going to be the highest paid guard in NFL history, to my understanding, for the Kansas City Chiefs. Whether it's in Kansas City or not, we'll find out. And Creed Humphrey is a damn good center. But what does Joe Thuney do? And what does Andy Reid do with Joe Thuney? Knowing the impact that the Eagles can have in the middle on defense. I think it's really fascinating. And the last little nugget I have is this. Vic Fangio poached Christian Parker, the DB coach of the Denver Broncos, that he brought to Denver when he got there as the head coach from Green Bay.
Which was not with him in Miami. Just have to say that because that guy, he is Vic's eyes behind the back of his head. He understands and is able to speak player when Vic is speaking military, right? 100%. You got to have somebody that can keep it simple, Steve, because Vic is a very old school guy. Hey, sometimes that old school works, and sometimes like, man, what are you talking about? Hold on. Let me show you. He's talking you off the ledge of this old man about you know?
Yeah. So Chris, if you remember, Vic leaves Denver. Nathaniel Hackett keeps Christian Parker. Nathaniel Hackett's gone. Sean Payton keeps Christian Parker. And this dude has been working with Pat Surtain and going against the Chiefs all of this time. And now Vic gets the job in Philly, makes sure he can get Christian Parker to come to Philadelphia with him. The two of them are the reasons why they drafted Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. I think they got a pretty good eye for talent because that's who they wanted. And I think Christian has probably a pretty good understanding of the Chiefs, just sitting in that division for as long as he had, to inform the whole backside of that group on what Patrick likes to do and what Andy's been doing of late, because he was just there a season ago. I think that familiarity between these two coaches, I think, is an interesting wrinkle in this matchup.
Here is the thing that you're forgetting as well. Prior to Vic going to Denver, where he was in Chicago, who was the head coach?
Matt Nagy.
And Matt Nagy is currently where with the Kansas City Chiefs?
Their offensive coordinator. And man, does he love Vic too.
Does he love Vic? And Vic knows
Matt.
Nagy, and Nagy knows Vic. So this is where it all comes full circle, where this matchup and this game, they talking about scripted. You know, people out seeing the mentions, people talking about, oh, it's scripted. It ain't scripted. It's called good coaching.
Yeah.
Good coaches stick around other good coaches. And you may not think about it and you may not believe it. But they were thinking about it 5-6 years ago, and that's how it does. Teams do not tank. What teams do is plan. And they regroup and figure out a plan for this day that the Lord has made. And we will rejoice in it and be glad.
What the Eagles have done in terms of defending screens with with the coaches we're talking about, the way Cooper DeJean blew up screens in the championship game.
Blowing them up.
They're going against the screen master, the master of the screen in Andy Reid. There's so many intricacies of how these two sides are coached and what they excel at. And then how is the other coordinator gonna try to either navigate around it or show the wrinkle to hide it? That's why these guys have been in the game so long, Vic Fangio, Andy Reid. They're masters.
And the screen game for the Kansas City Chiefs is an adaptation of a wrinkle of running the football, trying to get the pursuit to come and kind of getting that rush to slow down a little bit and get some type of plays behind the line of scrimmage or something that gets the front seven to think. And what they think is a slight delay in the rush. But, man, this has been fun to talk about these teams, what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, man. James, we talked about it via text a little bit, but the way we just broke it down, I'm excited, man. It's going to be a good game. Ooh.
I think Zach Bond's had a great year. Obviously, an all-pro year. He's playing great. But the dude has not played middle linebacker a whole lot in his life. I feel like Travis Kelce's going to be like, bro, I'm going to take you to school here. I'm going to give you
Here's the problem. It's all going to depend on that offensive line, bro. Is that offensive line going to make it?
Because Philly does not bring anybody extra.
They don't. And here's the problem. You can get the middle taken care of, and then Sweat comes out of nowhere. And just like...
Dude, Nolan Smith gets to the quarterback like that. I mean, he is a speed rush guy.
He is.